The evolution of hockey in the early NHL. Prior to the creation of the NHL, the National Hockey Association was created in 1909 and operated until disagreements between the team owners reached a breaking point in 1917. The creation of the NHL was largely due to Eddie Livingstone, owner of the league's Toronto Shamrocks and Toronto Blueshirts, as other owners wanted to oust him from the NHA. In 1917, 4 of the team owners from the NHA suspended the league and formed the NHL. It was supposed to be only temporary, but in 1918 the NHA was suspended permanently. Changes the NHL took with them from the NHA. Games were changed from 2 30-minute periods to 3 20-minute periods. The NHA originated 6-man hockey, replacing the previously played 7-man game that was played with a rover position. The use of standard contracts, reserve clauses, waiver draft, and the first salary cap were all taken from the NHA. The NHA may have even been the first to have jersey numbers for players, starting with numbered armbands, though this is disputed. 4 teams began the inaugural NHL season in 1917-18. The teams were the Montreal Canadiens, the Montreal Wanderers, the original Ottawa Senators, and the Toronto Arenas. However, after completing just 4 games, the Wanderers withdrew from the league due to their arena burning down, and the NHL continued that season and the next with only 3 teams. The first NHL rule change was also in that season. Goalies were permitted to fall to the ice to make saves. Previously, a goaltender was penalized for dropping to the ice. In the 1918-19 season, penalty rules were amended. For minor fouls, no substitutions were allowed until that player had served 3 minutes. For major fouls, no substitutions for 5 minutes. For match fouls, no substitutions for the remainder of the game. The addition of 2 blue lines painted on the ice 20 feet from center, 3 playing zones were created, producing a 40-foot neutral center ice area in which forward passing was permitted. Kicking the puck was also permitted in this neutral zone. The stat tracking of assists started this season as well. 1919-1920, the NHL underwent its first expansion, adding the Quebec Bulldogs. Toronto changed its name to Toronto St. Patrick's. 1920-21 season, Quebec relocated to Hamilton and changed their name, becoming the Hamilton Tigers. In 1921-22, goaltenders were now allowed to pass the puck forward up to their own blue line. Overtime was limited to 20 minutes. Minor penalties were changed from 3 minutes down to 2 minutes. In 1922-23, a rule was added for fisticuffs, resulting in a major penalty with no substitution. In 1923-24, match fouls were now defined as actions deliberately injuring or disabling an opponent. For such actions, a player was fined not less than $50 and ruled off the ice for the remainder of the game. A player assessed a match penalty may be replaced by a substitute at the end of 20 minutes. Match penalty recipients must meet with the league president, who can assess any additional punishment. In 1924-25, 2 new teams joined the NHL in its 8th season: the Boston Bruins, the first expansion team in the United States, and the Montreal Maroons. In 1925-26, 2 new teams were added: the Pittsburgh Pirates and the New York Americans. The Americans were stocked by purchasing the contracts of the Hamilton Tigers players, and the Tigers franchise was subsequently revoked by the league. Delayed penalty rules were introduced. Each team must have a minimum of 4 players on the ice at all times. 2 rules were amended to encourage scoring. No more than 2 defensemen were permitted to remain inside a team's own blue line when the puck has left the defensive zone, and a face-off would be called for ragging the puck unless shorthanded. Team captains were now the only players allowed to talk to referees. Goaltenders' leg pads were limited to a 12-inch width. The timekeeper's gong now marked the end of periods rather than the referee's whistle. Teams had to dress a maximum of 12 players for each game from a roster of no more than 14 players. In 1926-27, expansion continued, adding the Chicago Blackhawks, the Detroit Cougars, and the New York Rangers, growing into a 10-team league. The league realigned into 2 divisions, the American Division and the Canadian Division. Despite its name, the Canadian Division contained at least 1 team based in the U.S. throughout its existence. Blue lines were repositioned to 60 feet from each goal line, enlarging the neutral zone and standardizing the distance from blue line to goal. Uniform goal nets were adopted throughout the NHL with goal posts securely fastened to the ice. Midway through the season, the Toronto St. Patricks were sold and renamed the Toronto Maple Leafs. In 1927-28, for the first time, forward passes were allowed in defending and neutral zones. Goaltenders' pads were reduced in width from 12 inches down to 10 inches. Games were standardized at 3 20-minute periods of stop time, separated by 10-minute intermissions. Teams now had to change ends after each period. 10 minutes of sudden death overtime to be played if the score is tied after regulation time. A minor penalty will be assessed to any player other than a goaltender for deliberately picking up the puck while it is in play. A minor penalty to be assessed for deliberately shooting the puck out of play. The Art Ross goal net was adopted as the official net of the NHL. Maximum length of hockey sticks limited to 53 inches measured from the heel of blade to the end of handle. No minimum length was stipulated. Home teams were given choice of which end to defend at the start of games. In 1928-29, forward passing is now permitted in defensive and neutral zones and into the attacking zone if the pass receiver is in the neutral zone when the pass is made. No forward passing allowed inside attacking zone. A minor penalty to be assessed to any player who delays the game by passing the puck back into his defensive zone. 10-minute overtime without the sudden death provision to be played in games that are tied after regulation time. Games tied after this overtime period are declared a draw. Exclusive of goaltenders, team to dress at least 8 and no more than 12 skaters. In 1929-30, forward passing was permitted inside all 3 zones but was not permitted across either blue line. Partway through the season, these rules were further amended to read, no attacking player is allowed to precede the play when entering the opposing defensive zone, similar to modern offside rule but not quite the same. Kicking the puck allowed, but a goal cannot be scored by kicking the puck in. No more than 3 players, including the goaltender, may remain in their defensive zone when the puck has gone up ice. Minor penalties would be assessed for the first 2 violations of this rule in a game, major penalties thereafter. Goaltenders forbidden to hold the puck. Pucks that are caught must be cleared immediately. Violation of this rule will lead to a face-off to be taken 10 feet in front of the goal with no player except the goaltender standing between the face-off spot and the goal line. High sticking penalties first introduced. Maximum number of players in uniform increased from 12 to 15. In 1930-31, the Pirates moved from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia, becoming the Philadelphia Quakers, and Detroit was renamed the Detroit Falcons. A player without a complete stick ruled out of play and forbidden from taking part in further action until a new stick is obtained. A player who has broken his stick must obtain a replacement at his bench. A further refinement of the offside rule, which stated that the puck must first be propelled into the attacking zone before any player of the attacking side can enter that zone. Infringement of this rule will cause a face-off to take place at the spot where the infraction took place. In 1931-32, after years of expansion, the NHL contracted down to 8 teams, dropping the Philadelphia Quakers and the original Ottawa Senators. A rule was instituted which stated that each team was allowed only 1 goaltender on the ice at one time, though there is no record of a team attempting to play with 2 goaltenders at the same time. Attacking players forbidden to impede the movement or obstruct the vision of opposing goaltenders. Defending players, with the exception of the goaltender, were forbidden from falling on the puck within 10 feet of the net. In 1932-33, after missing 1 season, the original Ottawa Senators rejoined the NHL, and the Detroit Falcons were renamed the Detroit Red Wings. Each team to have a captain on the ice at all times. Maximum number of players in uniform reduced to 14 from 15. If the goaltender is removed from the ice to serve a penalty, the manager of the club is allowed to appoint a substitute. A match penalty with substitution after 5 minutes instituted for kicking another player. In 1933-34, the number of players permitted to stand in the defensive zone restricted to 3, including a goaltender. Visible time clocks required in each rink. 2 referees replace 1 referee and 1 linesman. In 1934-35, the Ottawa Senators relocated, becoming the St. Louis Eagles. A penalty shot would be awarded when a player is tripped and thus prevented from having a clear shot on goal, having no player to pass to other than the offending player. The shot is taken from inside a 10-foot circle located 38 feet from the goal. The goaltender must not advance more than 1 foot from his goal line when the shot is taken. In 1935-36, the St. Louis Eagles folded after just 1 season, and the NHL was once again an 8-team league. 1937-38, rules introduced for icing the puck. Penalty shot now awarded when a player other than a goaltender falls on the puck within 10 feet of the goal. 1938-39, the Montreal Maroons withdrew from the league for the season, further reducing the number of teams in the NHL to 7. Teams played with 1 single league table instead of any conference or divisions. Penalty shot modified to allow puck carrier to skate in before shooting. Blue lines widened to 12 inches. Maximum number of players in uniform increased from 14 back to 15 again. In 1939-40, a substitute replacing a goaltender removed from the ice to serve a penalty may use a goaltender's stick and gloves but no other goaltending equipment. In 1941-42, the New York Americans changed their name to the Brooklyn Americans for the season, which would also be their last season before folding. Penalty shots classified as minor and major. Minor shot to be taken from a line 28 feet from the goal. Major shot, awarded when a player is tripped with only the goaltender to beat, permits the player taking the penalty shot to skate right into the goalkeeper and shoot from point-blank range. 1 referee and 2 linesmen employed to officiate games. For the playoffs, standby minor league goaltenders employed by the NHL as emergency substitutes. That was the early years of the NHL. 25 years of evolution, expansion, contraction, and adaptation as foundations of hockey were being built during this era. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing to see more sports history. If you liked the video, please drop a like. If you have any ideas for future videos, leave a comment down below, and I will see you again next time.